multitasking is ruining your life. If you disagree or you're interested in knowing why, keep watching. When I use the term multitasking, what I mean is when we divide our attention among different activities for the sake of getting more done or to get it done faster. For example, it could be washing the dishes while listening to a podcast, or it could be attending a work meeting while typing out a project that's unrelated. And maybe right now, as you're listening to this video, you're doing something else at the same time. When we multitask in this way, we may think that we're doing more. We may think that there's an advantage to it. But actually, is that really the case? Are we really killing two birds with one stone, as the saying goes? Or are we just injuring both birds, but we're not killing either one of them? What I see is that we're actually damaging the quality of the tasks that we're doing and also ruining the quality of our experience. So for the example of listening to a podcast while we're doing the dishes, are we really hearing everything very clearly? Are we really able to absorb all the information well as we're doing the dishes? Are you really doing the dishes well? Are you getting them very clean while you're listening to the podcast? When we're multitasking in this way, we're only getting bits and pieces of information from the podcast, and we're probably missing things on the dishes. The dishes probably aren't as clean as they could be. When we multitask, the quality of our experience of life also decreases. And what I mean by that is when our attention is divided, the mind is actually scattered. It's jumping from one object to another. It's jumping from looking at the dishes, being aware of the feeling of the dishes, if they're clean or if they're still oily, and they're jumping to listening to words, listening to ideas, and even maybe thinking about them. That's actually a scattered mind. It's kind of like if you have a flashlight and you're walking in the dark and you're moving the flashlight all over the place in many different directions, pointing it at this, pointing it at that, and you're not really seeing clearly the path. That kind of state of body and mind, of distractedness, often leads to a tense condition and possibly an anxious condition because things become less clear and our thoughts become triggered in a way it's not a consistent line of thought. It's thought in many different directions. With the distracted mind, it leads quickly to irritability. So you may find that while you're multitasking, if somebody approaches you, you may feel quite irritable and just feel like, get out of my way, I want to get this done. And the very intention behind multitasking is often craving. A craving to want to get something done, or a craving to want to get more of something. It feels like we can't get enough. We can't do enough fast enough. Quite a few of the clients that I'm working with now have shared their stories of how it's very difficult to not multitask because they just feel like there's not enough time. There's not enough time to get done what they want to get done. There's not enough time to learn what they want to learn, so they try to squeeze it in and do it at the same time. They've shared that it leaves them ending up feeling exhausted and unfulfilled because that craving for more, it doesn't just stop. So after we finish the dishes, the podcast is still going. We'll probably go to the next activity with the podcast still running. We'll go fold the laundry, or maybe we'll even try to have a conversation, make a quick phone call, then come back to the podcast. So with this attitude of craving to do more, to get more done, to learn more, it sometimes comes from a place of feeling personally that we're not enough. We're not good enough at something. We're not as good as somebody else. So we have to catch up. That sense of ourself not being good enough and that drive to become better, that craving to become better, is often behind this behavior of multitasking. This sense of lacking and this craving just goes on and on and on. The more we multitask, the more we try to do, this pattern just gets stronger. This whole process is really a kind of suffering because it's an agitated mind and it's a state of not feeling fulfilled. With an undivided attention, what we can call a one-task mind, it's a very different experience altogether. A one-task mind improves the quality of our life. We simplify and just concentrate ourselves. So when it's time to do the dishes, we just do the dishes. When we want to listen to a podcast to learn something, we just listen to the podcast with all of our attention. If we're attending a meeting at work and it feels boring, we may even think it's useless, we still just attend it with all of our attention. And at the same time, we can relax ourselves, so it's not so bad. You could still enjoy being relaxed as you attend that boring meeting. In these situations, we're getting less done, technically, but the quality improves. The quality of the product that we're working on, or the quality of our learning something, improves. When we listen with undivided attention to a podcast, we absorb more. When we clean the dishes with undivided attention, I'm sure our dishes will be cleaner. We'll probably get them done more quickly, with less mistakes, less oily spots left. When we're doing our work, focusing with undivided attention on that product, I'm sure the product will become better because we'll be more clear about what we're doing in that moment, and we'll have more mental space to be thoughtful about how we're creating that product. We'll have less distractions from unrelated activities and unrelated trains of thought. And with a one-task mind, the quality of our experience also improves. So our body and mind can actually relax because we're fully aware of what we're doing. When we're unaware, it's easy to become tense and agitated. If we're fully aware of the task at hand, we can relax ourselves and use our body and mind efficiently, saving energy. Because of that, we can experience a sense of peace and calm, even when we're doing something that we don't necessarily like. And with this approach, there's really no concern for am I good enough or not? Because in that moment of undivided attention, we know that we're putting 100% of ourself into what we do. And at that moment, of course we're good enough. And when there's less craving to always do more and more, and because we're absorbed into what we're doing, there's a natural sense of fulfillment and well-being. When we do things with an undivided attention, we're making a deeper connection with ourselves and that task we're working on, and we make a deeper connection with others. The reason being is because all of our attention is on the person, and they feel that. People feel loved when all of our attention is with them. They're more likely to respond to us and be present to us in the same way. So we're establishing a very deep and intimate connection. Isn't it beautiful when, for example, a parent can give their undivided attention to their child? That child feels loved. That child feels secure. And that child feels important. And now, just to clarify, there is a kind of multitasking which is actually still one task, which is where we may be doing something, multiple activities, but they're all related. We're working on one bigger task that has many smaller tasks that are a part of it. And this is easy to understand. Just think of if you're cooking a meal, if you're preparing a meal for a lot of people, you may have many dishes, and each dish requires a special way to prepare it. It requires a certain time to cook that dish. So maybe there are a few dishes on the stove cooking at the same time. As we're chopping vegetables, things are cooking. Every once in a while, we go over to stir something and we continue to chop and wash vegetables. Preparing a whole meal may require this going from one task to the other, but they're all related. It's all part of preparing a meal. It's very different than trying to prepare this big meal while having a conversation about something unrelated, or again, listening to a podcast, even listening to music that we end up singing along with. That kind of multitasking is taking our mind away from one of the tasks at hand. When we work on multiple tasks as a whole, it's not a distracted state of mind, and all the tasks relate to each other. And that's fine. In conclusion, multitasking ruins the quality of our life because it creates a state of mind which is distracted, inattentive, and is unable to fully focus on one task at one time. It also ruins the quality of our experience because with a distracted mind, it often leads to tension, agitation, and all kinds of other troubles and disturbed emotions. And when we're inattentive to people, it really destroys the quality of our relationships and breaks apart our connections. When we have an undivided attention or a one-task mind, it improves the quality of our life. It improves the quality of what we do, how we do it, and it improves our connection with ourself, with the material world, and with other people. So I hope this video was useful. I hope that you weren't listening with a divided attention, and if you were, that's okay. I won't get mad. But I hope that you give it a try to do more things in your life with your undivided attention and practice having a one-task mind.